Please don't talk shit. That's all I ask. Okay. The last minute splurge that we did was, we will start with by far the biggest category here, 1,844 and 53 cents. Anything under that, like, I would have been okay with, and that's where I predicted that we would be. You have to pay for each chair, each fork, each linen, all of that. I know this is really controversial, and I'm hesitant to say this too. Everybody alive together. Welcome to the last video of my wedding series, probably. So if you're new here, I'm Katrina, and earlier this year I got married and I documented my entire wedding journey, and this is part 2 of the post-wedding Q&A. So in part 1 I talked all about tips for wedding planning, answered all of your questions about the wedding and how I thought, regrets, all of that. In this video I'm going to answer all of the questions relating to money, the budget, where we saved money, tips that I have, etc. Before I jump into the questions, I just wanted to take some time to talk about my thought process with this video, because Ryan and I have went back and forth because we're really hesitant and scared, and to be honest, there's not really like a good reason to share, except that I feel like if I'm gonna make a video, I want to do the best that I can to make the most helpful, thorough video for you. And for me, it means to really like answer your questions to the best that I feel comfortable with. But at the same time, it's really scary because the internet can be a really scary and judgmental place. Money is such a taboo topic, especially weddings are such a luxury, such a privilege, and I feel so grateful that we were able to have 2 different weddings, and we'll talk more about that. But they're so expensive, and I don't think you can really understand and realize it until you're wedding planning. Even if you knew people planning or whatever, it's not until you yourself are planning your own wedding that you understand and see just how expensive things are. I stand behind how we chose to spend our money, and ultimately, I'll say this in the end too, but I think the weddings really embodied what we feel like life is about and what we too value. But it's totally okay if that is not how you would spend your money. And so I think with these videos, a lot of times like comment sections can be a lot, because people will be like, oh my gosh, I got married in 2010 and I only spent this much, or wow, like I would have rather traveled the world, buy a house, all those things. And it is so great if you would rather do that, but that's not how we chose to spend our money, because we obviously had the wedding, right? But we also already had bought a house, and we travel when we can and when we want to, and we save money. And so I just think how someone spends their money is so personal, and I just hope that you all are kind and gentle, and that if this is helpful or if you're grateful, that you share with me in the comments, because honestly, it feels really weird feeling like I'm talking to a wall sometimes, especially when I'm being really vulnerable and transparent with things. So if this is helpful for you, if you found it interesting, comment down below, and please don't talk shit. That's all I ask. Okay. Alright, so the first question is, what made you decide the venue was it? So we had our wedding at the Temecula Creek Inn Stonehouse in Temecula, California. For me, my ideal venue, I wanted it to be completely outdoors for both the ceremony and reception. And we also wanted a venue that felt open, yet cozy and intimate. We also wanted it to be a distance that was far enough from where we lived so that people could stay the night and it felt like a little getaway, but we wanted also to be close enough where people could drive home at the end of the night if they wanted to. We had a really good experience during the first tour date, and she also gave us a free appetizer coupon to eat at their restaurant there, and so we really enjoyed that. And this venue was the last of, I think, 5 venues that we toured. And when we got there, like the first impression, I think we just kind of felt it, because at every other venue, like there was something that just wasn't ideal for us. Ryan thought he really loved this other venue, but then when he came here, like I will attach a video of his first impression, but he was just like, oh my gosh, this is it. Like this. I love how everything is together but separated.
Yeah. It's
all just one.
Yes.
It has the private, the open, the outdoors.
Yes.
But what actually really made us like make the decision to book was, I think a month or 2 after we toured it, they emailed us saying that if we booked before the end of this month, we will get 10% off food selections. Because we already loved it, and for all the reasons that I said earlier, we were like, okay, let's just do it. And then we booked it. Next question is, what did you save on and what did you splurge on? We definitely splurged on the venue, which included the food and drinks. So all of that was a huge splurge. Photography, we decided to go with our dream photographer. I also felt like the florals were a big splurge on my part because Ryan was cool with whatever flowers, but that was the hardest vendor for me to choose. And I talked about it in, I think, previous wedding diaries, but that was the hardest one to choose. But I'm so happy with splurging on that and really getting intentional with the kind of florals, the kind of arrangements that I wanted. I'm so happy with how it turned out. The last minute splurge that we did was really that wedding weekend. Towards the end, we were kind of like, okay, we really want to just make our family friends feel cared for that weekend. So we ended up paying for the hotel room for my aunts and cousins, and all the meals that they ate that weekend, we paid for it too. And so we're really happy we were able to do that, and they were really grateful. They said it felt like this vacation. They were really treated to it, so we feel really happy. For areas where we saved, and I'll go more in depth into these later, but we saved on flowers. Even though we splurged on flowers, we also did save a lot. Decor, printed goods and stationery, attire, including jewelry, accessories, shoes, single-use items like props, favors, and tips. The next question is, what is your budget breakdown? So I am going to share with you the pie charts and everything. And I'll talk about both of our weddings just so we can compare because they're very different. We're gonna start with the Temecula wedding, and I'm gonna get very detailed with each of the categories just so that you all can see what that price covered, because I think it's just, like helpful to understand. We will start with by far the biggest category here, the venue cost. This included the venue rental of the site, the food, and the beverages option, because this venue requires that you have to book all food, beverage, all of that has to go through them. For this venue and a lot of wedding venues, they require you to reach a food and beverage minimum. This is where they kind of get you, and you have to really do all the calculations to figure out how much you're spending. For us, they said that our food and beverage minimum was $20,000, and then the site rental, I believe, was $4,500. But you have to add tax and then their 23% service charge on top of all of those costs. And I already wanted to be as close to the food and beverage minimum as we could. That total ended up being $33,123.07. So that was 48.27% of our budget. The next category are accommodations, and this included our upgrade to the King Suite because they gave us one free room, but we upgraded to the suite because we wanted all the girls to be able to get ready there. And then we booked a total of 6 rooms, $2,394.29. Then we had our wedding coordinator. Now, we did not book a full wedding planner or even a partial planner. We just booked her for coordinator services, which started at 2 months before the wedding, and that was $3,162, 4.61% of the total. The next category was the photographer, and I believe we paid for 8 hours of coverage, both digital and film shots, timeline assistance, and it was a single shooter. And we paid $6,000, and this was actually already a discounted price. Cami, our photographer, was so sweet and offered us a $1,000 discount. And yeah, we're just incredibly thankful and so happy. Even though this definitely was a splurge, we're so happy with how it turned out. And she was just the sweetest human ray of sunshine. And one of our friends actually already booked her for their wedding next year. So happy with her and couldn't recommend her enough. The next category was videographer. The package we paid for came with 2 videographers, the highlight video, a ceremony edit, then all the videos of the speeches and toasts. We also added on some drone footage because Ryan really wanted some drone footage, and I believe we either paid a little bit more for the raw footage or they just added it on. But either way, was super happy to get the raw footage too because I edited it so many times for my own videos. This one was $3,845. Next category are florals. So this covered my bridal bouquet, 7 bridesmaids bouquets, our family boutonnieres, and we had 2 large arrangements, and then we had a bunch of ikibanas on the reception tables. And we also paid an extra fee for her to strike it down at the end of the night so that we didn't have to worry about cleaning it up, and that was 4,030. Next one is the DJ, 2,150. I believe he gave us a $150 cash discount if we paid, and we paid it all on the day of. And then hair and makeup, I had booked my main artist and then one more that had an assistant. And this included hair and makeup and also their travel fees. Both gave a little bit of a discount because I hired Sarah for our Chinese wedding. She gave me the Chinese wedding at a discounted rate. And then Leanne was able to take off, I think, like $100 from the travel fee, which I appreciated. $2,602. Next category is Katrina's attire. This included my wedding dress, alterations of that, dry cleaning after wearing it for the Chinese wedding, and then my reception outfit, the top that I wore. That total was $2,121.03. And then Ryan's attire, $1,073.92. Next one is the content creator, Ivana. So she actually flew in from the Bay Area, but she was kind enough to basically discount the cost of the ticket. So we paid for her services, her hotel room that night, and for her to rent a car. And she actually originally had given us a discount because we booked her for both the Chinese wedding and the Temecula wedding, but because we ended up moving the Chinese wedding date because my mom, she couldn't do that date, but still we removed that price, but she still kept that discounted price for this wedding, which we really appreciate. So total for that was $1,034.41. Next category is dessert. We had the Japanese shaved ice by Yamanaka Family Store, and I believe we paid for either 75 or 80 cups, $1,100. The next category is the live illustrator, and we paid for every guest to be able to, take home a portrait of them. And because we had booked her on the food tasting day, there was a 10% discount, and she also gave a complimentary group portrait. And for that, we paid $1,011.18. Next category is signage / cards, anything that we got printed basically. This covers the Etsy template that I ended up buying last minute, the wedding welcome sign, the seating chart, all of the personalized cards that we did, because we basically used credit card points to get a bunch of gift cards for Shutterfly. We didn't actually need to spend much cash at all. So total for all of the signage was $97.88. The next category is the wedding weekend food and drinks. And so this included the rehearsal dinner, which was about 35 to 40 people, a grocery store run where we bought water and snacks. The morning of the wedding, we got some coffee and pastries, and then we treated our family bridal party to brunch at the hotel. The total of that was $3,094.67. And the reason why we were okay to do that was, as it was leading up to the wedding weekend, we looked at our budget and we were like, okay, we're still within our budget. We have some room. So let's just, splurge and treat our family out. That's, what would make us really happy. And we just didn't want to be like, okay, let's have everyone split and calculate. We just would feel better if we could just cover it all. And then the last category is just miscellaneous things, was $1,844.53, making it 2.61% of the budget. So the total spent for the Temecula wedding for 92 guests, including me and Ryan, was $68,683.98. I feel so nervous saying that. So next, I'm gonna do the budget breakdown for the Chinese wedding, and you'll see just a very stark difference in terms of cost, but also the amount of just things on the pie chart are a lot less. This was done in March of this year, right after we found out that my mom's cancer came back and basically she was terminal. Because of that and our situation, some of the vendors that we reached out to, which were all people that we knew and had relationships with, gifted us some things. And so when you look at our breakdown, it's going to not include certain things. So I just want to give you some of that context. We had 22 tables, roughly 10 people per table, so 220 people. Unlike the other wedding where you pay per head, this one you just pay for the table. We paid $17,886. That included the food and also the tip to the restaurant. The next category was alcohol. So for this restaurant, they let us bring our own alcohol. So we just went to Costco and bought wine. We bought some red wine, white wine, some beer, and then some soju for the tables. Total alcohol spend was $616.11. For dessert, so we did something a little different. I booked the same shaved ice people, but instead of dessert coming after dinner, we actually had it start, like the appetizer. So when people walked in, the dessert was already there ready for them. And because of this, so many people ate it and people loved the dessert. Like some people were eating 2, 3, every single flavor. And so we had booked 175 servings. Every extra cup we would pay for if it goes over. And we were happy to do that. So we told people just like eat as much as you want, you know, enjoy it. And we ended up having to pay for 35 extra servings. So the total cost was $2,080 for the shaved ice. Next up is hair and makeup. So this included my hair and makeup, Ryan's mom's hair and makeup, my mom's makeup, and my sister's hair, and tip as well. And so that was $829.50. The next one was just miscellaneous things. That was $263.75. I didn't include photography and flowers, even though we had those, because we're so grateful that our photographer, Doug, actually would not take our money and he wanted to gift it to us. And we also got some florals gifted from How, our florist. She gifted the bouquet and the boutonnieres, and she said all we had to pay for was like the 2 arrangements, but then our friend James ended up paying for those arrangements. So sweet. We're so grateful. The total cost for the Chinese wedding was $21,675.36. So if you see the 2 different weddings, it's a huge difference, especially when you consider the amount of guests that we had. I wanted to put those 2 weddings and budget breakdowns side by side because I think it's such a stark difference, but they were both such amazing and fun and perfect wedding days. I feel so lucky. Ryan too. We just feel so blessed to have been able to do both, and it's really a thank you to our parents because they covered the Chinese wedding. Ryan and I covered the Temecula Western wedding. Because of that, we were just able to really get the best of both worlds and to celebrate with everyone, all of our friends, all of our family in a way that we really wanted to. That was the longest answer, but I'm going to jump to the next question, which was, did you stay within your budget? And yes, we did. I mentioned it a lot in my first Q&A, but we had a budget range rather than just a set budget number. And so our range was we wanted to stay within or not exceed the 60,000s range. So I ultimately didn't want to see anything, like I didn't want to see a 7 as the first number. Anything under that, like I would have been okay with, and that's where I predicted that we would be. Next question is, any tips for budgeting and saving money? So I'm going to focus on tips that we actually did because I feel like if you search the internet, there's so many general tips out there, but I don't want to give like a tip that I didn't follow. Before I jump into the list, first I think it's important to figure out what parts of a wedding really matter to you and your partner, and the areas you feel like you would need to invest money to get the vision that you want. Then figure out the things that don't really matter to you and consider like where can you choose budget options, but not only where can you choose like the cheaper option, but are there things that you're just okay with completely omitting and removing from your wedding, because that is a huge way to save money and also really align your wedding with what really matters to you. You would see that we actually, something we just completely removed and we're totally okay with. And so that changes for everyone. It's super personal, but talk with your partner and see where you can completely cut things and feel okay with, and that's a huge way you're gonna save money. Now I have a list of 32 things that we did that ended up saving us money. So first was no engagement party. We just got engaged, went out to dinner with just the 2 of us. 2, we had our wedding on a Friday. This was a little bit cheaper, mainly only when it came to the venue site rental, but I think this was also helpful in vendor availability because we didn't really run into any vendors that we were trying to book and they were already booked. 3, we had the same venue for the ceremony and reception, so we saved on transportation there. We had a pretty intimate guest list. We really limited the plus ones to be people who we felt close with. We actually ended up having a cake, but our friend made one for us. That was his gift to us. 7 was a smaller bridal bouquet, so I have a really small frame, so I specifically asked the florist for a smaller bouquet, and that actually is priced differently than if you were to ask for a bigger bridal bouquet. Number 8 was no boutonnieres for the groomsmen. So if you see, they only were wearing little pocket squares, except Royce, Ryan's brother, ended up having one because the florist made us one extra, and so we gave it to him. Number 9 is that we had no flowers at the ceremony besides the little flower petals on the aisle chairs, but that saved a lot of money because originally I was getting quotes for altar pieces because I thought I wanted like maybe some pedestals, some aisle runners. Easily, I would have added a few thousand to our floral cost. So when I finally figured out and realized I could just do no flowers at all for the ceremony and actually really loved how that looked, that cut costs immensely, which is why it was an area where we had splurged on the florist that we got, but we also saved on a lot of the floral items. No party favors, so besides the personalized cards, we didn't give anyone anything. Number 11, DIY table numbers. I just did them on Canva, printed them on Shutterfly where I had gift cards for, and then the table number holders, some of them I bought on Facebook Marketplace, so that was cheaper. I also bought candles from Facebook Marketplace for a discounted price too, and you just don't have to pay for tax there. Doing things early, and this saves money because like with the Shutterfly cards, we were able to wait for their site-wide sales and special promos, and also just use credit card points for gift cards. So we really cut a lot of costs with those cards. So no programs, individual menus, escort cards, none of those things. An all-inclusive venue. So some places where it's just an empty venue, you have to pay for each chair, each fork, each linen, all of that. And so luckily, like our venue actually had my dream chairs at no extra cost, and so that was really great. Wedding party proposal. If you saw way back when I did my bridesmaids proposal boxes, I worked with a bunch of different brands to make content in exchange for the gifts, and so I didn't really spend much money at all on those actual gift bags. And then for Ryan, he just wrote them a card. Thrifted my cheapao for $6.75. I borrowed my cousin's veil. I wore shoes that I already had. Same thing, I worked with Linear, the jewelry brand, to make content in exchange for the jewelry that I picked for my wedding, which was my wedding band and my earrings. Reception outfit, I mostly wore stuff I had, my shoes, my pants. I just bought the top and I bought it from Zara, so it wasn't too expensive. I believe it was like $29 before tax. The bud vases and ikebana over the larger centerpieces, that just helps cut some costs there. Asking for discounts whenever possible, of course, in a professional and a kind way. The worst thing that a vendor can say is no. And if they're going to be really rude and like, oh, I don't want to work with someone that asks for discounts, maybe they're not someone you want to work with, because all the vendors we work with, like, they understood how expensive it was, and if they weren't willing to give a discount, they would just say no, but it didn't like ruin our relationship or make things awkward at all. Sometimes they would work with us to try to find a package that was best like catered to our needs at the lowest price possible, but a lot of times people actually did offer little discounts, and every little bit counts. Sometimes it's not even about the dollar amount you save, but it's really about like, wow, this vendor is willing to do this, and it made me more willing to work with them than for a vendor who was very like curt and cold after I asked them that, even if their price was a little bit cheaper, if that makes sense. Like, I think working with vendors and through this process, I really learned that the vibe and how we interact and respond to each other plays a big role in whether I want to work with them. And it goes both ways, you know. For the next one, our engagement photo shoot was with our friend James. He took our photos. They were so beautiful, and he didn't take our money, but we did treat him out to dinner. No bridal shower. If I had a bridal shower, it would have been at home anyway, very low-key and like not expensive, but because the timing, my mom was sick and then she had passed, so I just kind of thought like it's not a good time to have that. Room blocks, guests save money, and actually because we booked some rooms for our guests, we saved some money there too. Wearing outfits I already had for related events like engagement shoot, bachelorette. I did not buy any new outfits for any of these like wedding related events. 27, just sending out photos as the save the dates. So we took those engagement photos and then I sent this as the save the date to our friends and family. And then for the invites, we just did it digitally, where I did it through Zola, but then I emailed everybody. And so yeah, no extra costs there too. And I think I already kind of mentioned this earlier, but I just had very no to little signage stationery at all. Because of that, we didn't do any flat lays for the photos. So sometimes these are the ones where people get their details, and sometimes they're like splurging on stuff to add it into the flat lay. But I didn't have like a signature scent or like fancy nice shoes or whatever that I wanted photographed. So we just like cut all of that out together and said no flat lays. A big one for how we save money, it is to continue living at home with our parents and rent out our condo. So in the beginning of 2024, Ryan and I bought a place and we had intended to move in eventually, but we weren't quite ready yet. And we thought, it's also great for us to be able to save money. So we had rented it out right away. We're still renting it out. And we had told ourselves, let's rent it out for 2 years so we could save some money, put that money towards the wedding. And now, since we don't have any plans to move into that, since we're gonna live with my dad, we're just, saving more money on that. So that's great. Wedding gifts. In our culture, most people give monetary gifts. I think we only got one physical gift from both of our weddings. So it's very like customary to give red envelopes. We also did put on our website just like a little thing about gifts and just like if they wanted to contribute, if they could just gift us like to our, I think we called it like a newlywed fund or something like that. And then, and I know this is kind of controversial, I'll talk about it more in a bit, but we didn't tip vendors outside of the catering staff. The next question is, did you tip the vendors? And like I mentioned, I only tipped the wait staff, which was like the 9 catering staff. I believe we tipped them each like $40. And I know this is really controversial and I'm hesitant to say this too. As someone who worked as a waitress last year too, I feel like the tipping culture has just gone a little out of hand, especially with these like guides to tipping wedding vendors and just like making sure you set like this amount. My philosophy on tipping is that you tip when you're really happy and appreciative of someone's service. But how could you tip and prepare your tips before even knowing how the service is? Like for example, photography, we wouldn't get those photos for another like 10 weeks. Same with video, right? Guides would be like, oh, give 15% of the price. Some of their rates are really high, as you saw earlier. 15-20% of that is a very high percentage. And as you see where we were in our budget range, we were already reaching towards like the higher end of that. So I decided, because I know that I'm gonna show my appreciation in other ways, I'm gonna choose to do those over a monetary tip. If I had done a tip, it would have been a flat rate per vendor rather than like a percentage of their rate. But ultimately I decided, I know I'm gonna leave every vendor review. I know I'm going to be talking about them, tagging them, constantly referring them all over social media, word of mouth. I am also writing each of them like a card. I wrote each of them a personalized card to be given on the wedding day. And so I felt like those are the ways that I'm going to show my appreciation. And if they're really unhappy that they didn't get like X amount of dollars, like that's okay too. But without having tipped, I don't feel like that affected any of the relationships I have with my vendors. I feel like they all are really grateful, as are we. So grateful, so happy with them. And I think we really shared how much we loved that they were part of our big day to them in so many different ways. And so I feel good about that. And all of this is just so personal to us. So please take it all with a grain of salt. I'm not saying that this is what you should do. I'm just saying that this is what we did. Last 2 questions are, is there something you would want to change if you could do it all over? Honestly, I don't think I would have changed much, except like I said in part 1, maybe put my own camera on a tripod, just getting the audience view. Yeah, it was perfect. 10 out of 10, no notes. And was it worth it? 1000% yes. Both weddings, so worth it. I will be just loving it, watching those videos again, going through my highlights. I'm gonna end with a snippet of my wedding welcome speech where I think really just sums up why I feel like it was worth it. And even though we spent such a high amount, like I would do it again in a heartbeat, because we feel like this is what life is really about. And I saw this other reel that Ryan sent me, where if you think about the best moments in life and like what really matters, it's everybody alive together. Everybody alive together. And weddings are just an amazing opportunity for that to happen. They're not the only time that those can happen, and so you don't need a wedding and you don't need to spend all this money to feel that joy and the happiness and that love. But in this society and the way that things are right now, weddings have become this really like kind of only one time appropriate time where we're really able to celebrate ourselves as individuals, not just as a couple, but for you to really say like, hey, I'm gonna do this stuff for myself, and other people are doing that too. And so I had seen this video critiquing weddings, and one of the comments was saying, you know, the antidote to that and to this like industry and inflated price would just be to continue celebrating each other in the day-to-day. And if we just all celebrated ourselves and each other all the time, like there would be no need to have this extravagant, expensive day to do that. And so if you feel like this is totally not for you, it's too expensive, this is not where you want to spend your money, just celebrate yourself and the people around you in different ways. That is the message I want to end with. I hope you all enjoyed the wedding series. I feel like I just unloaded so much, like a vulnerability hangover, but I am so grateful for you coming along this journey with me. I have grown so much, and yeah, I just feel like I am a better and more full version of myself than the woman I was when I got engaged, and I'm really happy that I did all of this, and thank you for being here with me, and I will end with my wedding speech. Bye!
Growing up, I felt pretty lucky. I have the best family. As a child, I had all 4 of my grandparents with me. Even into adulthood, I had 3 of them with me. But in the last few years, I started to feel like that luck was running out. And not only running out, but it felt like it was being wrung dry. But one day, Ryan sent me this Instagram reel. What stuck with me is this idea that all of our timelines are overlapping, and we somehow all ended up here at the same time. And not only did our timelines overlap with yours, but our paths got to cross in such a meaningful way. Because we get to be each other's family, closest friends, and chosen people in this lifetime. And I'm so grateful for all the people that I got to spend time with, even if I didn't get as much time as I wanted. For my aunt Gong and I, we had 16 years together. For both my grandmas, Ma and Ama, we had 28 years. And me and my mom, we had 30 years together. Even though, we didn't get as much time, I just feel so, it's so special that we got time together at all. When I start to think about it that way, I feel lucky all over again. And so today is about celebrating the love between Ryan and I, but a big reason why we were so excited about today was because it's a day where we get to celebrate our love for all of you, and hopefully the love you have for us. And this is the only time in this lifetime where this exact group of people, our family, our friends, the vendors all here, this is the only time where we're all going to be in the same place at the same time. And so I hope for the next few hours that we get together, that you all soak it all in and feel the love around you and express your love and enjoy the food and drinks. Dance like no one's watching, even if you've never danced before. You can do it later. And I just hope you all enjoy being here together, because that's what we feel like life is really.